everyone, depending on where you are in the world. It's Wednesday today, and we are back for another Confidence Convo. Welcome to our new segment. This is episode 8, I believe, or 9, where we discuss all things confidence for young adults. We will be live streaming and recording bi-weekly on Wednesdays on Facebook, YouTube, and your favorite podcast streaming platform. And this week, we'll be diving into self-care. So before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Davina Maria, and I am a master coach and founder of the Restore Yourself Method and host of Worthy Woman Facebook group. And I help women in their 30s to reconnect with themselves and give up people-pleasing, procrastination, and perfectionism. Over to you, Joanna.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Davina. It's so good to be back. I've missed you all. My name is Joanna Tonkin. I'm a registered psychotherapist. I'm a self-confidence mentor. I am the founder and creator of the Confidence Formula and the host of the Confidence for Women Facebook community. I work with high-achieving women under the age of 30 to help them improve their self-confidence so they can be successful. Davina and I got together to create this for you because we are obsessed with all things personal development, and we strongly believe in the power of working and learning from one another.
And just to clarify, we are not perfect at being confident all of the time. Like you, we move through our struggles and overcome obstacles and mindsets to continuously improve. So just think of us as guides by your side.
Yeah. And this week's topic of self-care was super important to me because it's something that happened just a couple weeks ago, back in early April. While we don't need a reason to take care of ourselves, and while it is quite a necessity, I believe, in our day-to-day lives, I experienced something that you may be familiar with called burnout. I got to a point in my day-to-day where I was tired, I was cranky, I was irritable, I was annoyed, and I'm a psychotherapist, and I teach the book on this stuff, right? I teach my clients how to avoid burnout and how to feel good and how to take care of themselves, and I was even susceptible to it myself. So that means that nobody is devoid from feeling burnout. Just like Davina always says, we are guides by your side. We are not perfect at all these things, and they can and they do happen to us as well. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, massively.
Why did I burn out? I burnt out because I was working a full-time job and a half, and I was building an online business, and I was traveling, and it was the holidays in early April, and I realized that I was not myself. I just knew that something was wrong. There was something that was off. I was irritable, like I said. My reactions to things were disproportionate to the activities themselves, and I was behaving in ways that didn't feel in alignment with myself. And so what did I do? Enter the topic for today.
Indeed, and I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah. So what did I do? First and foremost, I took everything that wasn't a necessity for my life, which is, my basic needs of, food and shelter, and taking care of my clients, which is my job and how I can afford to have that food and shelter. Anything that wasn't a complete necessity, and I took it off my plate from the beginning. So anything that was excess, anything that wasn't serving me in this moment, I had to remove from my plate. Then I started to slowly gain some energy, and I realized that what I had been doing to cope with feeling so tired, ergo watching television at night, wasn't actually giving me the fuel and the energy that I needed in order to increase the amount of energy in my tank for the next day. It was just keeping me at the same low energy place that I was at, and it wasn't actually providing any help. So taking off anything that was necessities, thinking about the way that you're spending your time and whether or not it's adding fuel or adding energy to your tank. And number 3 was little bits of tips that people kept giving me. Hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try this? And I was communicating to people about how I was feeling. And I had a friend recommend 5 minutes of Shavasana. Another friend recommend cold showers. Another friend recommended morning pages. All different like small things that I can incorporate into my life that could really take care of different aspects of my life that I realized now that I was neglecting. I was taking care of my basic needs, I was taking care of my physical health, but I wasn't taking care of all the aspects of my life. My social needs, my emotional needs, my spiritual needs were all being neglected while I was focused on my work and my physical health. So this is a note for myself, and this is a note for all of you, that burnout creeps up on you. It's not very obvious as it's happening, but all of a sudden you just feel like, I don't even recognize myself. I don't even feel like myself. My light, if you think about your essence being like a candle inside of you, or light inside of you, was turned off. And it took me months to realize how bad that it had gotten, and weeks to actually repair. And I remember the exact moment that I felt my light go back on, and it was like, oh, such a relief to feel like myself again. So that's my story, and that's why we're talking about self-care today.
I absolutely love that story. Thank you so much for sharing. And there's so many little bits in there that I think we can all kind of take away with us. I absolutely love the what you said about having a light within you, and the light going off when you're not yourself. I absolutely love that, and I think that is the best way of kind of assessing where you are, sort of how bright your light is at the moment. Like scale of 1 to 10, where's your light at the moment? And I think, for a lot of people who don't know much about burnout, who maybe feel off but don't really know what it is, I think that's a fantastic thing, to be able to like measure yourself by where you are. And you can even do it every day if you really want to. But yeah, absolutely love that story. Thank you so much for sharing. I think a lot of us probably need that right now.
Yeah, totally, totally. I know that I needed it, and I know that some of my clients do. And so it's really important that we just talk about how normal it is to get to that point.
Yeah.
And then on the topic of that light inside of us, I was wondering if you could be a little bit more specific about what it feels like when it's like, or what it feels like for you, I guess, when it's at like a 10 out of 10 brightness versus what it feels like when it's at a 5, and what it feels like when it's, at 0 or 1 in your experience.
Yeah. So I actually, in hindsight, maybe at the time I didn't realize it, but in hindsight, I probably have been at like a 0 or a 1. And I think when I was at a 0 or a 1, I was the only way I can describe it is I was very in myself. I wasn't very expressive. I wasn't laughing. And that for me is how I measure where I am. If I'm not laughing, something is wrong. So I can remember not really paying attention to being at a 0 or a 1, but I can remember something happening. I don't know where, I can't remember exactly where I was, but I can remember a time when I laughed, like, a proper good laugh where your belly aches, you can't breathe, you're like half crying. And after I laughed like that, that's when it hit me that I'd probably been at a 0 or a 1 for, I don't know how long, months probably. Because one of the thoughts that came into my head was, I haven't laughed like that. And then I couldn't remember the last time I had laughed like that. So for me, I feel like being at a 5 is probably, it's probably a bit like kind of going with the flow, kind of, I'm sort of energetic, but I'm not, but I'm kind of keeping up with everything I need to do in terms of the to-do list that we all have in our heads. If I'm at a 9 or a 10, I feel energized. I feel happy. I'm laughing all the time. And one of my core values is humor. I can insert humor into anything, even the worst situations sometimes, which, sometimes are not really appropriate, but that is one of my core values. So I feel like when I'm at a 9 or a 10, I'm very humorous. I can laugh at anything. I can laugh at myself. And nothing really phases me. I kind of like take everything in my stride, and I've got the energy to kind of not only do the things that I should be doing, but also do more, and maybe think about ways that I can be creative and insert more joy into my life. So I feel like I don't really remember what I was like at a 0, but I know that I felt when I probably got to a 5 that, okay, you've probably been at a 0 or a 1 for a very long time, too long, in fact. And when I'm at a 10, I think I'm probably kind of, yeah, I'm running on all cylinders. I'm in alignment with what I want to be doing. Everything I'm doing is serving me in that moment, and my values are, yeah, they are kind of in the forefront of my mind every day. So that is a really good question, by the way. I love that. How
Yeah.
would you to kind of give it back to you, tell me how you feel when you're like at a 0 or a 5 or a 10?
Yeah, I mean, I think I shared a little bit about the zero, 0 or 1,
Exactly.
low energy, irritable. My reactions to things were
Mm,
proportionate to the situation themselves.
mm-hmm.
I didn't recognize myself. I didn't feel good or confident in myself.
Yeah.
Um, I felt like I was living from like my prefrontal cortex, like this, like, thinking, stressing, worrying place versus like a
Yeah.
calm and relaxed place. So that's my 0.
Mm-hmm.
My 5 is probably, and so, okay, let's go to a 10, because a 10, I feel really calm, really settled.
Mm-hmm.
I feel abundant. I feel like I'm just
Oh,
like overflowing into
nice.
my life, into the people around me, into my job, into my clients, into my work. And I feel like, actually, this is a really relevant analogy, is like we sometimes
Mm-hmm.
talk about self-care in terms of a cup. And so you are a cup,
Yes.
and you need to add more liquid to your cup, because throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day, for different reasons, you have to pour into your work, you have to pour into your friends, you have to pour into your
Yeah.
relationship, you have to, whatever your surrounding environment and circumstance is, you're constantly, giving parts of yourself away. So self-care is this idea of like filling your cup up so that it overflows into the people of our life.
Yeah.
And it's really important to think of it that way, because a lot of people say, well, if I take care of myself, then I'm being selfish, right? And I think
Yes.
it's the complete opposite, because if your cup is empty, you can't give your best self to anybody,
Mm,
right? Not your parents, not your friends, not your partner, not your
yeah.
work. Nobody gets anything good if you are at 0 capacity or at low energy, right? But if you fill yourself up all the way to the top and you're at a 10 or a 9, you can like overflow into everybody in your life, and then everybody else is happier.
Yeah.
So sacrificing ourselves is actually the complete opposite thing that we want to do. We actually want to fill ourselves up first so that everybody else benefits, versus sacrificing ourselves in order to meet other people's needs.
Yeah. 100%. And I love that analogy and I use it all the time. And I agree. A lot of people that I speak to feel that self care is selfish or self centered, or, it's all about me. And in some respects, it probably is. But when it's healthy, you have to kind of keep up with, topping up your cup, because I feel like, you've touched on something really important when you said if you're sort of running on empty, you're not giving the best of you to everyone else. And I feel like, when you're not giving the best of you to everyone else, sometimes you kind of walk away from interactions or you walk away from experiences not feeling, proud of yourself or not feeling great about yourself. And sometimes you then start kind of going over things again, like, could I have done something better? Could I have said something better? Why did I say that? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And it then kind of comes full circle and affects your confidence, because you're kind of, interacting with people from a place of lack to a degree, and you're then kind of beating yourself up for doing that, which then affects your confidence, and then you kind of, it's sort of like a vicious cycle sometimes, that, a lack of self-care can cause. And yeah, I genuinely believe that it will in time kind of affect your confidence.
Totally. Totally. I think that comes to something that I wanted to share, which is it really, what's really important about self care is the intention behind doing it. And I
Mm,
think this is, for me, the reason why it affects your confidence is because, things we can do for self care, right? We can feed ourselves, we can take a shower, we can, make our bed in the morning, we can clean our kitchen, we can go for a walk, we can spend time in nature. Some of these things
yeah,
might feel like a chore depending
yeah,
on the intention, right? And so
yeah.
if we're just making our bed because it feels like a chore, or cleaning our kitchen because it feels like a chore, then we're not actually doing self care. We're just doing our chores,
Mm,
right? But if you do
yeah,
it with the intention of, I'm doing this X, Y, or Z because I'm important to me, or because I value myself, I think that mantra or sentiment behind self-care is actually the thing that relates directly to us feeling better about ourselves and more confident in ourselves, right? So I want you to think about your behaviors in terms of your intention behind doing them, and can you change the intention of some of the things you might not like to do, the mundane and boring and like things in your life, to I'm actually doing this because I'm important and I value myself and I deserve to have this, wonderful experience.
100%.
And increase your confidence in that kind of way.
Yeah, I love that. And there are certain chores that I cannot stand. I'm not going to lie. They are just, they're not for me. And that is something that I'm going to take away from today's episode. I think you're spot on with, changing your intention and, your perception of why you're doing what you're doing. And I feel like there's also a scale. You touched on sort of like, the basic, what we might class as basic needs, but they are also self-care. And I feel like sometimes there's a scale as well. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of people that I speak to about self-care think that it's, massages and getting your nails done and getting your hair done and, shopping. And for some people that can be self-care. But I think for a lot of us, what you've said is so important. Self-care can be a 5-minute thing. It can be free. It can happen in your home with what you already have. And sometimes it is just about changing the way that you think about what you're doing. So I love what you said about intention there, because I feel like, yeah, if your intention is to have a quick shower, it's very different to saying, I'm going to have a lovely shower. I'm going to use my best shower gel, and I'm going to use my best body lotion, and I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to put some music on, and I might have some candles on, and I'm really going to enjoy the experience of my shower. It's a completely different thing, but you're actually doing the same thing. It's just how you think about it and how you go about it.
Yeah. What are some free, non-time consuming, easy self-care things that people can do?
Ooh, I love this. So for me, again, going back to values, health and fitness is up there for me. I love moving my body, and it's free to just go for a walk. Sometimes on a lovely day, the sun's out, you can just take yourself off for a walk. I also love music. Music is like a love language for me. And I don't go anywhere without earphones, and I have obviously music on my phone, and just in case my Spotify doesn't work, I have music on my actual phone. So yeah, for me, two of the kind of free things that I would class as self-care for me is moving my body and music. Absolutely love them.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a few things I think about when you ask that question back to me. And it's those kind of 5 buckets of self-care that we need to kind of be monitoring and aware of. And so the buckets for me are physical, social, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. Right? And so I can tell you a couple things in each of those categories I like to focus on. So for physical, it's like the foods that you eat. It's the movement you do with your body. That could be physical, taking a shower, taking a bath, right? Physical self-care. Social can be free and easy and calling a friend or speaking to a parent or loved one, right? That's where you take care of your social. Have an intimate moment with your partner or a friend, right? Emotional can be scheduling a vacation, taking some time off, expressing your needs, learning something new that's not work or necessity. Reading a book can be emotional. And then mental, intellectual can be learning something new for work, learning something new about something that interests you, whether it's a YouTube channel or a Bitcoin, this, that, or the other thing, or AI, whatever, just learning something new. And then spiritual, I think of that as like going for a walk in nature, stretching my body, doing some yoga, maybe a 5-minute shavasana.
Yeah.
So I like to kind of think about my self-care when I'm aware of it. Sometimes I'm not. In terms of those 5 categories and what I can do to fill up each of those buckets.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and I like the thought of having different buckets to kind of fill up, because sometimes you might be really good at the physical bucket, and that one might be overflowing, and you might be completely neglecting your spiritual bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we are multifaceted, individuals, and we all have these kind of different angles to kind of attack things from. So yeah, I love the different buckets thing that you've just gone through there. And I feel like what we're doing today, in some respects, can be classed as self-care. For me, I think, personal development is probably comes under sort of intellectual or emotional or spiritual, actually. And I think that, the work that you and I both do, for me, is probably self-care, because sometimes just taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture and seeing where you are in life and where you want to be and what goals you want to set and what's stopping you from getting to where you want to be is self-care in itself.
Totally. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that, and thank you for caring about yourself with me.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for caring about yourself with me. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I just hope that all of our listeners have been able to take away something from this episode. I certainly have. So I know that we're kind of drawing to the end of our self-care episode today, and it has been so great chatting with you. I'm so glad you're back. And this topic is so important to me, as I know it is for you as well. So we'll definitely have more in 2 weeks' time. And for more information on who we are, what we do, and our love of all things confidence and self-development, you can find or follow us from our social media information posted below in the comments. And if you like what you've heard, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe. And we will definitely be back in 2 weeks' time.
See you soon. Take
See you
care.
soon.